Hi, everyone. This is John Farrell, the co-founder and CEO of WellDatabase. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Hope everybody's doing well and staying safe. And it's kind of a crazy time. We've only scheduled 30 minutes for this webinar, so we'll be moving pretty quick. But the great thing about decline curve analysis and WellDatabase is it's very easy, so we can cover a lot of ground in a short time. If you have any questions during the webinar, shoot them over. We'll answer as many as we can. And then maybe if we need to run over for a Q&A at the end, we will, but we'll try to get the bulk of everything done in this 30-minute time frame. And also this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. So don't worry if you have to go walk away or miss anything. Last thing, before we jump in, the decline curve analysis tools that we'll be looking at today are available starting in our essential package. The package is $250 per user per month. And like all plans in WellDatabase, it's month to month by default. And all it takes is a credit card to kick off a trial. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and share my screen and we will get started. So we've queued up a handful of scenarios here so that we can quickly dive in and look at a few different workflows. The first thing that we have on here is a view of EOGs, wells since 2010 in the Eagle Ford. Now, the decline curve tool is going to be available. We're looking at the type curve. It's available at the type curves. It's also available at the aggregate production level, the individual production well level, and then on WellDatabase projects. The interface and the functionality will be the same no matter how you get to it. And also the default production view in aggregate charts, this one, the type curve and production, is an average of the wells in your search on a monthly volume. If you want to, you can work with P10, 50, or 90s in monthly or daily volumes. All you have to do is click on the Add Series button, and then you can pick which stream we're talking about, what kind of aggregate you want to see, and then daily or monthly as a series type. Also, you can give it a color and a line style to help differentiate those. Just as a quick view, we can see here's a setup here where we have the monthly P10, 50, and 90 numbers. And of course, we can decline any of these numbers if we want. And then as a separate view, we have the daily numbers here. So everybody likes to work a little bit of a different way, but each of the options are here and you can decline on any one of those, whatever you need to do. So swing back over to the type curve section here. So what we're looking at is our oil, gas, and water on the type curve. This is, again, just the average. And so the first step we want to do is we want to pick a date range that we want to use our decline tool for. General rule of thumb that's pretty popular is using 50% of the well count. And so we've got a well count on our series here that we can look at. And so we see we started about 3,200 wells. So we're going to zoom into an area of about 1,600 wells. So let's come down to about month 26 or so. All I have to do is click and drag to highlight that. And now I'm going to focus on oil. So I'm going to go ahead and over here, hide the gas, and I'm going to hide the water. So click back on oil and click Add Decline. Now let's take a minute and run through the settings. These settings will be the same everywhere we go, so we only really need to do this once. The only obvious difference you'll see on the decline settings is within the fit period, and it'll be when we're talking about decline curves or type curves and using month numbers versus when we're using date values for that. First, at the top, you can save and recall declines. It comes in handy if you want to recall these things for later to do comparisons, and we'll look at that in a little bit. Moving down, we can name this. So since we're going to use the best fit, we're going to just name this best fit and give it a color so we can make it stand out a little bit. And then the decline type here, like we said, was best fit. And on the best fit, instead of settings, you have ranges. So this is reflective of our period that we chose, the first 26 months. It picked the initial rate being the peak rate for the period, so 22,000 barrels. And then it gives us ranges of B values, of initial declines, and then as a terminal rate. What will happen is the best fit will step over each of those values and every combination of these values to determine what fits the raw data the best. At the bottom, we have a forecast, which gives us what are we going to forecast out to. My settings are set to 50 years or 100 barrels. You can use either or on these. And this is in total years. We can do future years, or if we're just looking for a fit number, we can do none. So coming in, choosing next to no options, and just click generate, it's going to start iterating through that process. Now, remember, when it does this, it's running thousands of iterations and scenarios and then determining what the best fit is. So here we go. And so looking down, jumping to the card here for the production, the decline summary card, you'll see this is our best fit oil. Our period that we chose to fit was between months 2 and 26. Our decline type chose as hyperbolic. Our initial decline was a 38%. The initial rate's 22,000 barrels. And then this is the fit. And so the fit is going to be how tight your decline curve fits towards your actual data. And so on type curves, where a lot of data is aggregated to get a more cleaner data set, then you will get numbers between 0.99 and up. You probably won't hit 1 because that means it's a perfect fit. It's important to note that as you are working with lower volumes, that your fit can get looser because the relationship between the size of the numbers and the variance in the numbers. So we'll see that here in a minute as well. It shows a B value of 1, and then we have a EUR here at the bottom. So there's a few options on our EURs. You can say use all recovered production and then declined once the recovered production is done. You can, up at the top, use decline values only. So if you create a decline curve and you want to utilize that kind of in a vacuum, you can use the decline only. Recovered only will give you the same thing that you see on the chart, the 245,500 barrels. And then you can truncate the recovered at decline, meaning that we can use what was the actual numbers are up until you start your decline, and then use a decline past that. And then you can do kind of a related one where you can truncate the recovered at your fit period. So on this instance, I used 26 months. And so if I choose that one, which is what we want to do here, it's going to use the first 26 months of actual data. And then after month 26, it's going to do the forecast data. And that is going to be what was recovered. So through 26 months, we recovered 164,000 barrels. And then from month 26 on, we have 181,000 remaining. Now, this was a best fit. You won't get a terminal decline when you're only using 26 months of production. It usually takes a little bit more time to establish that terminal decline number. But if you have a terminal decline number in your head, then we can come in and we can do that. So let's try that. I'm going to come back and select my period again because I want to use those 26 months again. And then there are two ways to do this. We're going to do first is the long way. So I'm going to click add decline again because we can continue adding these. And I'm going to call this the best fit plus terminal. I'll give it a different color again. And then I'm going to come down and choose modified hyperbolic. And we kind of skipped over this before, but you can choose your specific decline type as well as a dynamic fit. A dynamic fit will adjust the best fit to your search criteria as you move through the map. As you move and pan and filter, it'll always generate a new decline based off of the fit of the current data. The other best fit will fit the decline curve, but it'll hold that as a value, as a curve independent of what your other data pulls up. So sorry, we can change to exponential, harmonic, hyperbolic, or modified. So I'm going to choose modified hyperbolic. And so there's a couple buttons here that are helpful. Using initial decline, one note is that you can use the first 2 months to establish your initial decline. If you do that, it'll take basically month 1 and month 2 and tell you what the decline is and use it. But what we found is that because the initial decline affects the total life of the decline curve, that we can create a fit that gives us a more tight answer. So what I can do up here as well is use calculate parameters, and this is going to use the same best fit type parameters that we did before, and it's going to populate those here. So we click that, get calculate best fit parameters, and what will happen, instead of generating the curve, it's going to drop in the parameters for us here, which is what we want to do because now we want to specify a terminal decline number. So I'm going to drop in 10% of the terminal decline number, leave everything the same, hit generate, and there we go. So now we can see this line went to a dotted line when the terminal decline hit, and then we can also see, using again that truncate recovered at fit period, that our EUR went from 345,000 barrels to 302,000 barrels. So this is a great way to compare and understand, what the net effects of terminal versus straight hyperbolic declines look like. And then we can keep on going down this route. We picked 10%. Let's put a new terminal number on there. And instead of, I told you there was a couple of ways of generating this. This is the quick way, is where I can just copy these settings. So if I click copy, I can say best fit plus terminal, and let's try 15%. And all I have to do is change my terminal number to 15% and hit generate. And then we get another decline curve. We can see that by going to 15%, we have changed our EURs to 285,000 barrels. So we're kind of seeing a quick what the net change is whenever we're looking at different terminal values. I can go ahead and copy again. I'll give this one a new color because I can, and change it to 5%. And let's look. So now we can pick 5% actually is really tight to the others. When you create a decline, it's going to zoom to that area. And so if I need to zoom back out, up top, I can just click zoom all and it'll drop me out. Now I can see a little bit more spaced out as to where each of those declines with the different terminal numbers hit. I left my name as 15%. I've changed that. I just have to come here, change it to 5. And so now I can see side by side, and we can see how these, how the different type curve parameters fit and change between the different settings we can use. So it's a great way of comparing and kind of figuring out what type curves make sense to you, where you want to see things, kind of what the difference is between different values. There's also another setting we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and copy one more, and I'm going to move this off to the side. I'm going to check auto update. So this is going to update our chart in the background as we tweak the parameter so that we can see what those effects look like immediately. So to get a pretty drastic effect, I'm going to change my initial rate from 22,000 to 42,000. And so we see that curve pop on there. And then maybe I'll change my B value to a 1.5. And now we've got a real type curve, one that you probably see in an investor presentation there. And then I can generate this and keep that on there. And so we can see what those look like. And an EUR of 787,000, that's better. It's a bad idea for the record. So we can hide these, we can delete these, get rid of them. And then, so I'm gonna delete each one of these outside of that, maybe that 10% fit. And then we can talk about how you can take this data out. Now that we've got a fit we like, we see the type of terminal and what we want to see. We can come up to the top here and we can export out images of any of these charts. We can download the CSV data or Excel data behind it. And then down below, you can get the same thing from this layout of this table. And you'll see each series you add will be another piece of data that goes into this table. So you can also compare them one-to-one down here. So it's quick, it's easy to throw on declines. What we did was picked EOG at a high level in the Eagle Ford, and we were able to pretty easily determine, what their declines look like, what the fits look like, kind of how tight the fits are. Let's flip over and let's try a new workflow. So I'm jumping over to another tab. This one came out of a blog we did the other day where we were looking at operators in Karnes County. And so what you have here is Burlington or Conoco. And we can see that the production data here is all set, ready to go. But there's going to be an issue. So using that same idea, we hit 373 wells here. So we'll jump down to about, just say 200, make life easy. And so we'll highlight that area, about 49 months or so, and we'll hit add decline. We'll use the best fit settings again, and we'll say, just call this best fit. And we'll give it a good color. All the same settings. And again, iterating over thousands of times can take a few seconds sometimes, so be a little patient there. So this is our fit. It's a hyperbolic 0.6, nothing out of the ordinary except for the fact that it doesn't look very clean. As I zoom in, we can see that the actual data floats above and below the values pretty drastically to the point that I don't feel real comfortable with that decline set. So what we want to do is that we want to utilize how you can interact with the fit periods to try to maybe find can we define 2 periods that help give us a better fit? So I'm going to take kind of where they diverge the most. It looks like about 23 months. I'm going to highlight just that area, and we're going to generate a new fit from that. So I'm going to say first 23-month fit, and I'll give it a different color altogether. And I'll just use the best fit parameters. I won't bother with much, and hit generate. And then what we see is we get a hyperbolic 0.1. We can see the comparison for the fit is a 0.97 to a 0.99. So it's a much tighter fit, but obviously after month 23, we get way off. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this best fit so we can look a little closer. At month 23, it's pretty clear how far we get off. So I'm going to highlight month 23 on to month 49, which was our the end point of our original set. And we're going to define a new decline period there. So we'll just call it the tail decline. Give it one more color. I guess I'll go on the orange side here. And again, I'll just use the best fit. And then now we get for that tail decline, we see that we get a 1.5 B value. And it's a 0.93 fit, but since it's a lower volumes, that's not such a big deal. You can inspect this visually and you can see how well the second decline fits versus the first. So that's great. Now I'm going to come edit this because I want to drop in a terminal number. So if I just change it to modified, put my terminal number of say 10%, and hit generate, then that's what our well looks like. So there's a couple things you want to pay attention only to the EUR of your tail, the last section of your decline here. So we can see that EUR here. That first 23-month fit is good for reference, but obviously the well moves away from it, so we can hide that. And this is our good production numbers here. So that's how you can kind of get around when the fit isn't perfect. And this is happening in some cases in the Eagle Ford, where you're seeing either a super low hyperbolic or even an exponential decline over the first initial periods, and then a flatter hyperbolic after that. So it's good in WellDatabase that you can create multiple declines, kind of use the actual data as a frame of reference, and then work towards it till you get a fit that you like. And again, at this point in time, you can take that data out, do with it what you wish. So let's hop over to our next set. We wanted to look at, I talked about how best fit didn't pick a terminal decline at any time because they didn't have enough data to suggest a terminal decline. So we went up to the Bakken and we're going to look at partial field wells drilled between 2000 and 2010. So every well in our system has at least 10 years of data in it. We're moved over to the production chart too. So now we're looking at monthly production volumes for all the wells in my view. In general, you would want to do a PDP view a well at a time, but for a broad stroke like this, where we have 166 wells that produce consistently for 10 years, we can get a good ballpark number of what this PDP of this field looks like for these wells. Of course, there have been more wells since, so there's lots of caveats to this, but you can do this workflow as well. So all we'll do is take where we have 166 wells and take it all the way to the current range, and then we'll add another oil decline, call it a best fit. We'll call it PDP. And then the key you want here is that your production limit no longer will be applied to a single well's monthly volumes. This is to 166 wells. So I've already changed this to 116,600, which would be the equivalent of 100 barrels a month per well. So I'll generate this curve. And this will give us, again, the same type of iterations, but because we have a larger set of data, now we have data to support a terminal decline in this area, which tells me that it's 15%. So again, we see where the terminal decline comes in, and we see where it kind of fits the data pretty well. It's not fantastic, but it's pretty good. The entire fit is a 0.98, which is good. And then we can look at, from this view, a ballpark PDP. So this field, those wells in this field have produced already 75 million barrels, and it looks like they have about 11 million remaining on them, according to our forecast in this range. So again, I can't say it enough that you can get ballpark numbers here, but ideal PDP view is done on the individual well basis and then aggregated together, because certain wells are coming online and offline and everything in between. Just for, we're going to flip over to the type curve as well here. And so this is another view of all of those 166 wells that we can, again, create our decline off of, just using a simple best fit and generate. I needed to change that to 100 barrels per month and generate that. And so this, again, is another example where we'll find that the data supports a terminal decline. That terminal decline comes in at about month 88 or so. So this is a 15% terminal. And then we can see a good EUR here for these older wells. Good wells in the Bakken. It's a reason why it was so popular. But this was a good example of how you can take older wells and how it will fit to terminal when the data will support it, as well as how you can look at it from a PDP or a type curve view. So now let's hop over to a well level, because again, these tools are all available at the well level, at a project level, at type curve, and everywhere in between. So this is a simple well, pretty straightforward, pretty standard decline, nothing too scary here. So again, hit add decline. I'm just going to leave this as, I'll call it the full well life. And then I'll generate this decline here using just the best fit. Now, when it's running over a single well, the best fit tends to run a little bit faster in general. But again, that can vary. It's running thousands of scenarios at each time. So what we see here on an individual basis is we have a 0.7 B value, all recovered and then decline. That's what you want to use whenever you're doing an individual well and taking into account the entire well life. If we were to chop the well life, then we'd want to use the decline stopping at the end of our fit window. But for our purposes here, we've got a nice fit. We had a B value 1.7, and then maybe we copy this and change it to modified so we can drop in a terminal number, just so we know what that looks like. And so in this case, the terminal number makes very, very little difference to us. 260,000 barrels difference. So again, sometimes those terminal numbers will add up to more than others. This well in particular, these aren't crazy volume wells, so we're declining out, starting off at 1,000 barrels a month and down from there. So that's really quick and easy to do one well at a time. It takes a matter of seconds to do. But wells are rarely quite that simple. Many times we get scenarios like this where we have either multiple periods, whether they're because of pumps that come online, wells that get shut in, or if there's just a tail period that you want to pay attention to. Now, I did want to be quick in this webinar, and to keep it 30 minutes or so, and we're 23 minutes in. So what we've done is we've already run some of these numbers so that we can just kind of share them with you. So if we look at a full well life for this well, I'm just going to show it. It comes out to a 0.8 B value and a terminal of 15%. And so that was a full best fit, but this is where you can see that you're seeing data above, below, and then of course, as these secondary periods come into play, they're obviously on a whole other playing field. And so I'm going to hide this one. We know that a pump was added to this well in February of 10, and so that's why you have a little bit of erratic production leading up to it. So we decided to decline it from when that pump was added. And so we get a nice clean fit in that first period, but of course we have more activity that changes here, but it goes back to the fit again. After the shut-in, we get a big peak. So let's look at what the post shut-in looks like. So we just grabbed from February of 17 to July of 18, used the best fit again. It turns out that we have a exponential decline there. And so that obviously stopped. And then we have another period where it was shut in, and then we have this tail period. And so if you look at the tail period, you are much flatter decline at 2.9% and a terminal number. We actually pulled in that terminal number using these previous best fits that suggested that we're looking at a 15% terminal here. So if you're looking at this well, it's obvious that there are multiple periods of life within this well. And of course, when you're trying to give an EUR, you definitely only want to use the tail version here. That'll give you the total number. And it's, there's only 69,000 barrels remaining on this, but it already had produced over 1 million barrels. So those numbers are all pretty likely that these are correct. Again, you can take out any of this data. It's all shows beneath in the table. It's in the charts, and you can take out all the pieces that go into it. A couple more well examples for the few minutes we have in place here. This is another well in that Parshall field that was a little more clean as far as it came online, was shut in, and then came back on. So this is the decline from when the pump was added. It's, again, a very nice fit there. Once we go post shut-in, we see a different fit. The difference in EUR is about 30,000 barrels in the positive after the shut-in period. And if we compare all that to the full well life, we find out that if you had made that best fit, you would have been extremely off on that. So you can't just, this is a good example of why you can't just blindly run a best fit. You have to take each one and each well life at its face value and determine what periods make sense. But again, it's an easy thing to do in WellDatabase to create as many declines you want, watch the fit, determine if it needs to move out to a new fit or not. And then we brought on another well in Texas. This is a well that was shut in for an offset well frac. And so this is something we see really common, and a question that's obviously a big question we have now about shutting in wells and the net effect on them. So what we ran is a pre-shut-in volume, and you can see we have a decline that's a very nice fit. And then we have a post-shut-in that is a good fit, but you have to look at shut-ins. You will get that influx of production, and then you'll have a drop off, and then they'll kind of normalize. And so this fits the normalized period really well. And in this case, we're looking at 201,000 barrels of EUR versus 255,000. So it's a fairly decent number. Mind you, that is all being accounted for in the latter years of production here. One thing to note when we're doing shut-in declines is that when we select the period that is pre-shut-in, then we want to use that we truncate recovered at our fit period, because we don't want to take in any of this other data into our EURs. We only want to take into account what was produced during our fit period and then using the decline afterwards. Whereas the post-shut-in, we want to use the entire recovered well life and then only use the decline post the well life there. Last little couple examples of what you can do here. This is comparing Diamondbacks, Pecos, and Reeves County. So I basically just created a search of Diamondbacks since 2010. I did Reeves only, created a fit. I did Pecos only, created a fit, and now I can compare the EURs for this operator between these two counties. I've done the same thing between multiple operators, and we've got a great blog out there in the Karnes County blog that kind of can lay out the different operators and what each of their declines look like, and in effect what their B values and EURs are. And then this is a great view because it highlights the perils of the number of months that go into a fit. And so we took this data. This is a Southern Delaware County data in the last 10 years. We created multiple fits across it. So you can see I've named them all: 6 month, 12 month, 24, 36, 48, and 60. And the EURs range from 105,000 barrels all the way up to 335,000. The great thing about doing this is that you have all of this fit criteria here. And so I can tell that the 36-month fit actually gave me the tightest fit of data. And then I can see what the net effect looks like for each of these. And so again, hide and show, copy these. But this is another great example about learning lessons about how much data goes into a fit and what's the best amount of data to actually fit a well. So that's the end. We are right at 30 minutes here. So I hope that you guys all enjoyed that the demo of this. Please, if you have any questions or you need anything at all, you can share those now. You can hop on. You can reach us at info@welldatabase.com. If you want to get sales, it's sales@welldatabase.com. You can get started anytime by just going to welldatabase.com, sign up for a free account. If you want to trial the decline features, you can trial the essential package, and that'll give you every feature that we have here now. let me know if you need anything. Again, thank you for coming. My name is John Farrell, and I appreciate it.